What's up guys? In this video I'm going to be reconstructing my almost 20.67, mean of 3 from Australian Nationals 2023. So unfortunately, for those who don't know, on the last solve I did successfully find a 22, but I did not translate my NIS notes correctly and I wrote it down wrong. So that resulted in a DNF. I tried again a bit after the hour, like a few minutes, and I realized what I wrote down wrong, and then the second time I tried I got the solution to work. So that was pretty tragic. However, I'm still quite happy about this mean for a few reasons. For one thing, it's not really like a world record fail or anything, because the week before Chongwen finally broke through, got a 20.0 mean of 3. I would have needed a 20 on the last one to do so, and I really just don't think that was on offer for the scramble. So no real hard feelings there. The other reason I'm quite happy with this mean is the scramble set really was not that good. I can think of at least like 3 or 4 scramble sets that I thought were more promising than this one. So the fact that I almost did it on a scramble set that I would consider probably overall worse than average, albeit maybe not by too much, I think it bodes well for the future. This mean of 3 is also the best ever mean of 2, like starting mean of 2 for an official mean. So that's kind of cool, I guess. Also, I got my third 19, which I'm going to show in a sec. And by sec, I mean right now, because, I don't know, I'm bored of talking. I'm just going to show what I did. So for the first attempt, I got a 19. I did the 3-move EO on FB axis. You can just see 2 bad edges here, 2 bad edges here. Very simply, do L, D prime, and then I did B prime to give EO in 3 moves. There was no instant RZP, but you can do an R, and that will give you DR minus 4C4E, which is what I went with. From there, I switched. This is what the cube looks like. And to solve this type of case, I sort of just know like this sort of family of cases with like 2 pairs and like UL sorts of patterns. You can often shift these into different 4C4Es and get short solutions that way. And that's exactly what I did. So I did R prime to give now 4C4E in 5 moves. And you can see we've got the column as a result, and this column is very close to being built. From here, the shortest DR you can do is D, F2, D prime, and then like U2R to finish. And this gives 1/4 turn 4C4E in 10 moves. I tried for a long time to find something off of that, and at a certain point I felt that my best bet was to try modifications of the DR in the hopes for a lucky finish. Not necessarily 19 levels of lucky, but definitely something in the sub 23 range. So the modification I went with was, before doing this final U2R, I just did F2, B2, and then D2 and L prime. And as you can see, this just gives me 1 more move to HTR, which is kind of insane. In this case, I did a U-turn. And then we've kind of got these 4 pairs here. And I sort of just like, instead of like solving blocks directly, which you can definitely do, like you can replace the U with the U prime, do like F2, B2, and then you get this case. And I think this might be another way to arrive at optimal, potentially. I haven't confirmed that. But the way I did it was I did F2 to sort of bring these together, D2, and then F2, B2, L2, and that gave me leave slice in 18, which is ridiculous. So L2, F2, D2, D2, F2, U prime, just undoing to this point. I'll just show the slice rewrite quickly. You do the initial 3 moves of U, F2, D2 as D, R2, U, D, and that just adds 1 more move, but the E slice solves itself as a result. So that gave me 19 moves on the first attempt. And sort of a funny story, I really needed to use the bathroom for a significant portion of this attempt. I'd want to say the trouble started brewing maybe 20 minutes in, so I ended up stopping about 45 minutes in because it was sort of an emergency situation. Thankfully, I analyzed this scramble with Nissi, and it really doesn't look like there was anything better than a 19 on it, so I think I made the right decision. So that's it for solve number 1. I'll now get into solve number 2. For solve number 2, I got a 21, and this solution I think was about as lucky as the first one. Essentially it was a 10 move finish from an 11 move DR, which is quite lucky. I don't know what the odds are exactly, but it's definitely not that common. Not like something you can expect even if you check a lot of DRs. This scramble, I believe it had a 3 move EO somewhere. I think it had 2, but I couldn't find anything from them, so I did, once again, the FB axis, and I did a 4 move EO on normal. You can see 2 good edges here, and then 2 good edges here, so you can do U or U prime, B or B prime, and then DF. The variation I went with was U, B, DF, and this gave instant 4C, 4E, which was the original reason why I switched. However, when you switch, you can see the 4C, 4E case isn't that good. Yeah, you do have a column, but it is quite cumbersome to make the second one. I don't believe there's even like a fancy shifting alg you can use for this. What I did notice, however, is on this axis, you're 1 move away from axial reduction. And by that I mean you can do an L, and now this case can be solved with the moveset UD, L2, R2, F2, B2. And without getting into too many of the specifics of axial reduction, it's essentially a way to kind of find DRs without using traditional DR triggers and potentially generate lots of useful variations. So that's what I went with here. So I did that L turn, and the first variation I wrote down, which I'll explain why that's relevant in a sec. I did D prime, because you can do D prime or U prime because it's essentially the same in this environment. And then R2 or L2, I did R2, D or U, in this case I did D, F2 or B2, in this case I did F2, and then L2U. So if you count how many times I said this or that, you can get an idea of just like how many possible variations there were. But this yielded me an 11 move DR with 3/4 turn 2C2E, which is the best 3/4 turn set you can get. And then switched back to normal, did my EO, this is what it looked like. And here I just did the most straightforward HTR on this specific variation, which just happened to be the first one I wrote down. And to do that I did U2, L prime, U2, and then I just saw this big block, so I was like, okay, instead of inserting like that, I'll just preserve it, RB2, R prime. And you can just see, without even needing to rewrite the slice, it's just 4 more moves. So B2, D2, B2, R2. So that's the 21 I got. As you can see, it was lucky not only because of the finish being so short, but the fact that I had so many variations to check, and the first one I checked not only gave me optimal, but it gave me optimal in an extremely straightforward and fast way. So I think I found this like less than like 35 minutes into the attempt. So I did have quite a bit of time to fish for a 20, but I really just couldn't find anything better than this. I don't think I spent much more time on this DR because I was pretty convinced once I found out that that's probably optimal from it, and I just failed to find any additional DRs that I felt were likely to give a 20 or better. So that's it for solve number 2. We'll now get into, well, quote unquote, solve number 3. For solve number 3, I got, well, I mean, I already said what happened in the intro, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm just going to complain about how bad this scramble was. This scramble was so trash. I think there was like, if I recall correctly, I think there was only 1 4-move EO. Either way, there were so few 4-move EOs that I got through them very quickly, NIST for all of them, NIST for all RZP in 5, or like worthwhile RZP in 6, which there wasn't any of, I don't think. But even if there was, I checked all of that. I had no DRs I was even remotely happy with, and this was like 20 minutes into the attempt. So at this point, I basically know that to find new DRs, I need to check a lot of 5-move EOs. And I found this DR, I want to say around 50 minutes into the attempt. I checked, and it turns out in total I checked 78 EOs on this attempt, NIST for every RZP in 5 that I found, or again, like worthwhile RZP in 6, like a 3C2E in 6, I would NIST for. or maybe like a JZP, but I don't think there were any of those. JZP being like the same name as axial reduction. You would know about that from the previous solve, but I didn't call it JZP there. Anyway, I found this on the 76th EO out of 78 that I checked. So, in a sense, because I was checking them kind of randomly, in a world where for whatever reason I checked this 5-move EO earlier, there's a very good chance I find this 22 in time, but so be it. Found this about 50 minutes in, and this is what the solve could have looked like roughly. So on normal we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bad edges, which is quite trash. And what I did was I did F prime to reduce to a different 8 bad edges, and by doing this prediction I could see that it would be 4 more moves just by like mistracing the good edges, these 4. I saw like these 2 would go here, this will go here, this would go here, and this has a bunch of ways to do EO and 4 more moves. So from there, I switched, and I think it was the first one of this set that I had checked. No, it was the second one, because you can do B or B prime and then 3 more moves, and the one that starts with B prime, DLF, gives no instant RZP, but it has like a lot of blocks kind of, and for whatever reason, I'm kind of familiar with this like anti-soon 3C4E type pattern, especially like when you have these 2 edges. I believe here, I don't think this works if they're diagonal, but I could be wrong. This can be 5 more moves provided you do the correct like alignments. I also realize now you could just insert random U moves, but that would only yield 12 move DRs, but I didn't think to check that. I don't know if I missed anything there or not, but this is what it looked like after the 5-move EO. And to get DR, I did D, R prime, so this is RZP and 7, but again, I was checking this because I was pretty sure this yielded a short enough DR to be worth checking. And then here you can do U2 or D2 because of the placement of the edges before making this second column. In this case, I did D2, and then you can do F2, U, and L. But L prime is sort of part of my solution because it ends up cancelling. Same with like the first move on normal, I do the F as an F prime for the same reason. After that I switch, so this is what the cube looks like if you do L prime instead of L and then F prime instead of F for the EO. And this is 2 quarter turn 4C 6E, which is effectively the same as 4C 2E. And to solve HTR most efficiently, you do L2 and then F2, and then that sets up the 3-move trigger. And then you do D prime B2 U, and as you can see there are a ton of blocks, and to get the leaf slice skeleton, oh wait, do you have to do, oh yeah, that's right. So you can do it as U prime instead of U, and then you have this kind of like offset floppy reduction case where you do B2, R2, F2, B2, and then U2, D2. So I wrote the leaf slices like D, U2, and then that to save a move. So this is kind of a weird 21 to slice, but there's no way to reduce it to 20 to slice. And in these kinds of situations, it might just be a skill issue, it probably is just a skill issue, but I find it hard to like quickly find optimal from these types of leaf slice skeletons, because there are a lot of ways to add a single move to the leaf slice skeleton, because you can essentially just insert a slice move anywhere, and as long as you skip that final AUDF, it will be a 22 length sequence that solves the U and D layers and the like E slice centers. So I had this at about 55 minutes. I tried just doing my normal approach of like solving leaf slice, which is not the most optimal in these scenarios, but for normal purposes where I have time to spare, it's not so bad. I believe I found the working 22 at around like 58, like definitely past 58 minutes. I would have had less than 2 minutes. And it was the only way to get a 22 from this, but unfortunately wrote it down wrong, misread my notes, and got a DNF. So I lose my national champion title as a result, but that's kind of neither here nor there. The more important thing is I missed out on an opportunity to get a sub 21 mean of 3, which has pretty much been my ultimate goal ever since I got even like remotely good with DR. So that kind of sucked, but future's looking bright, and that's what matters. Yeah, that's about gonna do it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.